Hi, Guy. Tonight we journey to ancient Japan, where the sea whispers tales of shipwrecks and second chances. Imagine, if you will, the scene. Picture a stormy night, waves crashing against jagged cliffs, the spray a cold kiss against your skin. You cling to a piece of driftwood, a lifeline in the churning chaos. Salt stings your eyes, blurring the line between sky and sea. The taste of seawater, bitter and sharp, is a grim reminder of the life you left behind. The ship that now lies splintered and swallowed by the depths. You probably won't survive this, but that's part of the charm, isn't it? The thrill of the unknown, the edge of survival, the whisper of what might be. So before we dive headfirst into this thrilling tale, before you get comfortable and let the story wash over you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. No pressure, of course. And while you're at it, do tell. Where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? It's always fascinating to see how far these stories reach, how they connect us across continents and time zones. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, that gentle white noise that cradles the imagination. Close your eyes for just a moment, take a deep breath, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The waves finally relent, depositing you, battered and bruised, onto the shore. You cough, sputtering seawater, your limbs heavy and unresponsive. As your vision clears, you realize you've washed ashore onto a field of wild chrysanthemums. Their scent, surprisingly sweet and earthy, fills the air, a stark contrast to the briny tang of the ocean. Chrysanthemums, by the way, were a symbol of the emperor in the Heian period. Just a little floral fact to tuck away. You never know when that might come in handy. You try to sit up, a groan escaping your lips. The world spins for a moment, then settles. You're alive, miraculously, impossibly alive. But where are you? And how will you survive? Historians still argue whether the practice of welcoming shipwreck survivors was widespread among Japan's samurai period. Some believe it was common practice, dictated by ancient codes of hospitality. Others argue it was far rarer, dependent on the whims of local lords and the perceived threat of outsiders. The truth, like so much of history, is shrouded in mist and conjecture. Speaking of mist, a figure emerges from the swirling gray lantern light flickering across a shaved head. He's a monk from a nearby temple, his robes the color of the earth, his face a mask of gentle concern. He approaches slowly, his footsteps barely disturbing the carpet of chrysanthemums. He offers you a hand, his touch firm but gentle. He speaks in a language you don't understand, but his meaning is clear. He offers you shelter, warmth, and the promise of second chances. Now this is where things get interesting. Monks, particularly those of certain Buddhist sects, often held some pretty cool beliefs about second chances, about the cyclical nature of life and death, and the possibility of rebirth and redemption. They believed that even the most unfortunate events, even shipwrecks that seem to strip away everything, could be seen as opportunities for spiritual growth, for shedding the old and embracing the new. But more on asterisks that later. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, imagine yourself in the monk's care. You're led along a winding path, the lantern light illuminating the way. The temple, nestled amongst ancient trees, appears like a sanctuary, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. You're given warm broth, a simple but nourishing meal, and a place to rest. The silence of the temple, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant chanting of monks, is a stark contrast to the roaring storm that almost claimed your life. You're safe, for now. But safety, as you'll soon discover, can be a deceptive thing. This new life, this second chance, comes with its own set of challenges, its own mysteries to unravel. Who is this monk who has taken you in? What secrets does this temple hold? And what is the true cost of a second chance? These are the questions that will shape your journey, the whispers of the depths that will guide you through the twists and turns of this ancient tale. So settle in, dear listener, and prepare yourself, for the journey has just begun, and the sea, as we all know, has many stories to tell. The path wound upwards, a ribbon of gray stone against the emerald green of the mountain. My legs burned with the climb, each breath a ragged gasp in the thin air. Beside me, the monk moved with an unsettling ease, his sandaled feet barely disturbing the loose gravel. He was a study in quiet strength, his saffron robes flowing around him like liquid sunlight. The temple, our destination, grew larger with each step, a haven of gray stone and dark wood, nestled against the mountainside as though it had grown there organically. The air, so sharp and clear it almost hummed, vibrated with a quiet energy, a sense of ancient peace that settled over me like a warm blanket. This was clearly no place for idle chatter or the slap of flip-flops. Serious business radiated from those weathered stones. I noticed, with a growing sense of unease, that the monk hadn't spoken a single word since we began our ascent. Not a greeting, not a word of encouragement, not even a grunt of exertion. His communication was entirely through gestures, a silent language of flowing hands and expressive eyes. His hands moved with a fluid grace, each movement precise and deliberate, like the strokes of a calligrapher's brush. It was mesmerizing and slightly unnerving. I tried a tentative, "Hello?" earlier, the sound echoing awkwardly in the vastness of the mountain, but it was met only with a gentle tilt of the head and a slight smile. Later, I learned that many of the monks here took vows of silence, years, decades even, spent in quiet contemplation. I imagined trying to argue a point with someone professionally silent. The odds of survival seemed slim. I'd also overheard whispers in the village below about the monks' unique form of communication. Apparently, these hand gestures weren't just for simple directions or requests. They could convey complex philosophical ideas, entire debates conducted in utter silence. They could apparently discuss the very meaning of life, the nature of reality, or, and this was the part that truly captivated me, the location of the best mochi in the province. I made a mental note to try and decipher that particular gesture later. As we drew closer, the imposing wooden gates of the temple loomed before us, intricately carved with mythical beasts and swirling floral patterns. They swung inwards silently, revealing a courtyard filled with meticulously raked gravel and ancient bonsai trees gnarled with age. The scent of burning incense and old wood, a comforting earthy aroma, washed over me. The silence, so profound it was almost a physical presence, amplified the sense of serenity. This, I knew, was a place of refuge. I recalled reading somewhere that Buddhist temples historically offered sanctuary to travelers, pilgrims, and those in need of protection. It was a tradition that spanned centuries, a testament to the enduring power of compassion. In this moment, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for this ancient custom. The monk led me through a maze of corridors, each turn revealing another glimpse into the temple's hidden world. A glimpse of a meditation hall, the rhythmic chanting of unseen monks filtering through the paper walls. A courtyard filled with blooming lotus flowers, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the muted tones of the stone. A library filled with countless scrolls, the repository of centuries of wisdom. Finally, he stopped before a small, unassuming wooden door and gestured for me to enter. The room was small and sparsely furnished, but spotlessly clean. Sunlight streamed through a small window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. A simple futon lay rolled up against one wall. A low wooden table occupied the center of the room, and on it rested an inkstone, a brush, and a blank scroll. The inkstone, a smooth, polished piece of dark jade, caught the light, reflecting my own image back at me. I stared at the reflection, surprised by what I saw. Gone was the haggard, hunted look in my eyes. In its place was a flicker of hope, perhaps. I looked like a stranger to myself, yet somehow familiar. Like a version of myself I'd long forgotten, reborn, not in the flames of some grand revelation, but in the quiet stillness of this mountain sanctuary. The monk, still silent, gestured to the futon, indicating I should rest. He then pointed to the inkstone and brush, a silent invitation to write, to record my thoughts, my experiences, perhaps even my fears. He then bowed slightly, a gesture of respect and welcome, and quietly withdrew, closing the door behind him, leaving me alone in the hushed stillness of the room. The silence, once unsettling, now felt like a balm to my weary soul. It was a silence that invited introspection, a silence that held the promise of healing. I looked again at the inkstone, at the stranger in its polished surface, and for the first time in a long time I felt a sense of peace. The rhythmic chanting of the monks drifts through the paper walls, a low, resonant hum that vibrates through the floorboards and up into my bones. It's a strange kind of peace, this stillness punctuated by sound, this feeling of being both connected and utterly alone. The soft scratching of a brush against paper joins the chant, a delicate counterpoint to the deeper tones. Those paper walls, surprisingly enough, do a pretty good job of keeping out the noise of the bustling city just beyond the temple gates. And, more importantly perhaps, they also keep out nosy neighbors. I'd been curious about the influence of ancient Japanese poetry on Zen Buddhism. Historians still debate the exact nature of that relationship, the chicken and egg conundrum of which came first, or if they arose in tandem, two vines twisting around each other, reaching for the same sun. Was Zen's emphasis on mindfulness and presence in the moment mirrored and reinforced by the concise, image-driven nature of Japanese poetry? Or did the poetry spring from the fertile ground of Zen philosophy? It's a question that's likely to be debated for centuries to come. I'm not alone here in this quiet room. In the corner, bathed in the soft glow of a lantern, a figure sits hunched over a low table. It's a wandering poet, his face etched with the lines of travel and thought, a map of experiences written in the creases around his eyes and the deep grooves bracketing his mouth. He's writing, his brush moving across the scroll with a fluid grace that speaks of years of practice, of muscle memory honed to an almost unconscious precision. It's mesmerizing to watch, this dance of ink and brush. I can't help but think how cool poets were back then. Imagine carrying your entire library, your entire world of stories and ideas, all tucked away inside your head. No bulky scrolls to lug around, no fragile pages to protect from the elements, just the vast landscape of your mind. There were different times, certainly. Times when a well-crafted poem could open doors, could earn you a meal and a place to sleep. Wandering poets often traded poems for food and shelter. Their words, their currency, their art, their livelihood. They were the storytellers, the historians, the keepers of culture, moving from village to village, weaving tales and sharing news. It was a precarious existence, no doubt, but one that surely held a certain freedom, a certain romance. He pauses in his writing, the brush hovering just above the scroll, as if suspended mid-flight. Then, slowly, deliberately, he lifts his head and looks directly at me. For a moment, our eyes meet across the dimly lit room, and I feel a strange jolt, a connection forged in silence. He smiles, a flash of warmth that chases away the shadows clinging to the corners of the room. It's a kind smile, a gentle smile, and it reaches his eyes, crinkling the skin around them. He gestures towards the scroll with a slight inclination of his head, an invitation unspoken, but clearly understood. He dips his brush in the inkstone, the gentle scraping sound a punctuation mark in the quiet of the room. Then, with a renewed focus, he begins to write again, the characters flowing from the tip of his brush, like water finding its course. I watch, captivated, as he builds a world on the surface of the scroll, each stroke a breath, each character a heartbeat. I wonder what stories he carries within him, what landscapes he has traversed, what wisdom he has gleaned from his travels. His face tells a story of its own, a story of sun-baked roads and sleepless nights under the open sky, of encounters with strangers and the quiet solace of solitude. He seems to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, and yet there's a lightness in his eyes, a spark of something untamed and free. The monk's chanting continues its rhythmic pulse, a backdrop to the unfolding scene before me. The scent of ink hangs in the air, mingling with the faint aroma of incense burning somewhere in the depths of the temple. Time seems to slow, to stretch, to become almost irrelevant. I am simply present, absorbed in the moment, a witness to the quiet magic of creation. I wonder what he is writing, what words are flowing from the tip of his brush onto the waiting surface of the scroll. Is it a tale of love or loss? A celebration of nature's beauty? Lament for the fleeting nature of time? Perhaps it's a reflection on the very scene unfolding before him, a meditation on the quiet connection between two strangers in a dimly lit room, their lives intersecting for this brief, fleeting moment. He stops writing again, sets the brush down with a delicate click, and looks at me, his eyes filled with a quiet amusement. He gestures towards the scroll once more, this time with a more pronounced movement of his hand. It's a clear invitation now, an offer to share the fruits of his labor. I hesitate for a moment, a flicker of shyness running through me. Then, drawn by an unseen force, I rise to my feet and approach him, my heart beating a little faster in my chest. The scroll lies open before me, the ink still slightly wet, gleaming in the soft lantern light. The characters dance across the page, elegant and fluid, like birds taking flight. I lean in closer, my eyes tracing the lines, trying to decipher their meaning. And as I do, I feel a sense of anticipation, a thrill of discovery, as if I am about to be let in on a secret, a hidden truth. The wandering poet's light illuminates not just the scroll, but something deeper, something within me. The unspoken invitation draws me closer. The scroll lies unfurled, the ink still glistening, still settling into the elegant curves and strokes of the characters. It's a poem, a lament of loss, a whisper of survival, a song of the sea, giver and taker of life. The subtle scent of the ink hangs in the air, a blend of pine soot and something earthier, almost metallic. I glance at the brushes arrayed beside the inkstone, their tips a variety of shapes and sizes. I'd heard these brushes were crafted from all manner of materials. Animal hair, certainly, but even burnt wood. Talk about a stark art supply. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, a strange mix of fascination and unease. The poet raises his eyes from his work, meeting mine with a quiet intensity. He gestures towards the inkstone, the smooth, worn surface reflecting the soft light filtering through the paper windows. Then he gestures to me. An invitation to share. I know calligraphy is revered here, an art form held in the highest regard. Generations have dedicated their lives to mastering the delicate dance of brush and ink, elevating it to a spiritual practice. To be offered this opportunity, it feels almost sacred. But hesitation claws at me. The memories are still so raw, the edges sharp and painful. The words themselves feel clumsy, ill-equipped to carry the weight of what I've experienced. They shift and blur in my mind like smoke, elusive and formless. My hand trembles slightly as I reach out and pick up one of the brushes. The smooth coolness of the lacquered wood is a surprising comfort against my skin. It feels grounded, solid in a world that has felt anything but. I bring the brush to the inkstone, dipping the tip into the blackness. It spreads across the bristles, a dark bloom mirroring the uncertainty that stretches before me like my own personal inky abyss, and I begin to write. The brush glides across the paper, an unfamiliar extension of my own hand. I write of the storm, the howling wind that ripped through the sails like a vengeful spirit. I write of the deafening crack of the mast, the sickening lurch of the ship as it surrendered to the waves. I write of the loss, the faces of my companions swallowed by the churning sea, their cries lost to the roar of the storm. The ink flows, a dark tide mirroring the tempestuous waters that claimed so much. I write of the field of chrysanthemums, a vibrant splash of color against the desolate shore where I washed up, half drowned, clinging to a piece of driftwood like a lifeline. I write of the silent monk who found me there, his weathered face a mask of compassion, his hands gentle as he guided me to the sanctuary of the temple. I write of the silence of the temple, a stark contrast to the raging storm. The rhythmic chanting of the monks, the scent of incense, the simple meals of rice and vegetables, all of it a balm to my battered soul. I write of the days spent tending the temple gardens, the quiet satisfaction of nurturing life back into the earth, a small act of defiance against the forces that had tried to take everything from me. And I write of the shipwreck, not as an ending, but as a beginning, a stripping away of everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I was. A chance to rebuild, to redefine myself in the face of unimaginable loss. The poet watches me as I write, his face a mask of quiet understanding. He makes no comment, offers no interruption. He simply observes, his presence, a silent acknowledgement of the story unfolding beneath my brush. It's more difficult than I imagined, this dance of brush and ink. Controlling the flow, the pressure, the thickness of the lines, it's a skill honed over years of practice. I'm sure my characters are clumsy, lacking the grace and precision of a true calligrapher. I probably won't survive this, not in the eyes of a true master, but somehow that doesn't seem to matter right now. The act of writing, of pouring my story onto the paper, is its own kind of survival. I've heard whispers among the temple staff, debates about the propriety of women practicing calligraphy. It seems it was a highly respected art form, primarily dominated by men, especially in the circles of the imperial court. Historians still argue about the extent to which women were allowed or even encouraged to participate in this art during the early Heian period. Some say it was strictly forbidden, a realm reserved for men only. Others claim that women of noble families were often educated in the arts, including calligraphy. but their work was rarely acknowledged or preserved. It makes this moment, this invitation, even more profound. The last stroke of the brush leaves a lingering trail of ink, a final punctuation mark on my story. I lift the brush, my hand now steady, the memory still present but no longer a crushing weight. They are a part of me, woven into the fabric of who I am, but they no longer define me. They are the ink and ash from which a new story can be written. The brush hesitates, then flows, finishing the last character, a whisper of hope against the stark white of the scroll. The poet nods, his eyes reflecting the flickering lantern light. He points to a line in my poem, then to a line in his own. A shared experience, echoing across the years. These scrolls, by the way, were surprisingly durable. Imagine carrying your entire family history rolled up in a bamboo tube. Generations of stories, joys, sorrows, all tucked away safe and sound. It makes you think about how we preserve memories today, so much more fragile, so easily lost in the digital ether. He gestures towards the temple grounds. I follow him outside, the night air cool against my skin, a welcome change from the stuffy confines of the scriptorium. We stand beneath the vastness of the starlit sky, the temple a silent sentinel against the mountainside, its dark silhouette reaching towards the heavens. The poet points to a distant peak, its snow-capped summit gleaming in the moonlight, then to a line in my poem about loss, about the ephemeral nature of life, about the mountains that remain long after we are gone. A connection, forged not through words, but through the shared experience of gazing upon something ancient and enduring. Ever tried navigating by the stars? It's surprisingly easy once you find the Big Dipper. Or was it the Big Sushi Roll? I always get those two mixed up. Anyway, imagine relying on those celestial markers to guide you across vast oceans, over towering mountains, towards unknown shores. The bravery, the skill, it's humbling to contemplate. He lowers his arm, the starlight catching the silver streaks in his hair, and points to a cluster of graves near the temple walls, each one marked with a stone and a weathered wooden tablet inscribed with names and dates long past. Some of the tablets are barely legible, the wood softened and worn by the relentless passage of time. He gestures towards my brush, an invitation to remember, to honor those who came before. It's a powerful moment, standing here in the stillness of the night, surrounded by the echoes of lives lived and lost. Those wooden tablets, by the way, were surprisingly good at resisting rot, unlike certain politicians' reputations. It makes you wonder, what will remain of us, what traces we'll leave behind on this earth? He leads me closer to the graves, the scent of damp earth and incense hanging heavy in the air. I can see small offerings placed on some of the stones, flowers, fruit, small clay figurines. It's a poignant reminder of the connection between the living and the dead, a connection that transcends time and space. He points to one grave in particular, the wooden tablet almost completely disintegrated, the stone beneath it cracked and moss-covered. He tells me a story, a whispered tale of love and loss, of a young woman who died too young, leaving behind a grieving husband and a child she would never know. The story hangs in the air between us, another echo of the past, another testament to the enduring power of human connection. He then begins to speak of the burial rituals themselves, how they varied from region to region, from clan to clan. He explains how the placement of the body, the direction it faced, the objects placed within the grave, all held symbolic meaning. He tells me of the debates that still rage among historians about the significance of grave goods in ancient Japanese burial rituals. Were they purely functional, meant to provide the deceased with sustenance and comfort in the afterlife? Or were they symbolic, representing the status, the beliefs, the hopes and dreams of the departed? Some scholars believe they were a way to maintain a connection with the deceased, a way to ensure that their memory lived on. Others argue that they were a way to appease the spirits, to prevent them from returning to haunt the living. It's fascinating, this glimpse into the beliefs and practices of a culture so different from my own, yet so deeply connected to the universal human experience of loss and remembrance. He stops at another grave, this one marked by a more elaborate stone and a surprisingly well-preserved wooden tablet. He explains that this was the grave of a poet, a contemporary of his, a man whose words had once resonated throughout the land. He points to a small, intricately carved wooden bird placed on the stone, a symbol of the poet's love of nature, of his ability to capture the beauty of the world around him in his verse. He tells me of the poet's final days, how he had requested to be buried with his favorite brush and inkstone, so that he could continue to write even in the afterlife. He smiles sadly, a wistful expression on his face, as he tells me how some scholars believe that these objects were not merely symbolic, but were meant to provide the deceased with the tools they needed to continue their craft in the next world. It's a beautiful thought, this idea that even in death, we can continue to pursue our passions, to create, to connect with the world around us. He gestures back towards the temple, the lantern light casting long, dancing shadows across the graves. He tells me it's time to return, that the night grows old and we have much work to do tomorrow. As we walk back towards the scriptorium, I can't help but feel a sense of awe, a sense of connection to the past, to the countless generations who have walked this earth before me. The poet's words, the stories he has shared, the silent testimony of the graves, have all woven together to create a tapestry of memory, a reminder that even in the face of loss, life continues, and that the echoes of the past can resonate within us, shaping who we are and who we will become. I look back at the graves, bathed in the soft moonlight, and offer a silent prayer for those who rest there, for the poet whose words still echo in my heart, and for myself, that I may have the courage to face the future, knowing that I am connected to a chain of memory that stretches back through time, a chain that binds us all together, the living and the dead, in the shared experience of being human. The graves stretch before me, a silent army standing guard against the encroaching forest. Each one a gray sentinel, a weathered monument to a life lived and lost. The setting sun paints them in hues of orange and violet, a fleeting, ephemeral beauty against the backdrop of enduring stone. I approach them slowly, the crunch of gravel beneath my sandals, the only sound breaking the stillness. I stop before one, drawn by something I can't quite name. The stone is smooth and cool beneath my hand, polished by the relentless caress of wind and rain. I see my reflection in its surface, distorted, wavering. Another stranger in a strange land. Another story etched in the lines on my face, waiting to be told. These stones, they're surprisingly heavy. I remember helping the stonemason once, trying to maneuver one of these behemoths up the hill to the temple. It was like wrestling a small mountain. My back ached for days. If I have to fight my way out of here, I sincerely doubt I'll survive. Not with these odds. Not with this burden. There's a faint hum emanating from the stones, a low thrumming that vibrates through the soles of my feet. They used to say the spirits of the deceased resided in these stones, whispering secrets on the wind. Superstition, perhaps. But out here, surrounded by the hush of the approaching twilight, it's easy to believe. Easy to feel the weight of unseen presences, the echoes of lives lived long ago. I settle down on my heels, the damp earth a cold kiss against my worn trousers. I unwrap the bundle I've been carrying, a brush, an inkstone, a stack of fresh wooden tablets. The familiar weight of them in my hands is a small comfort in this place of shadows and memories. I grind the ink, the slow circular motion, a meditative rhythm against the backdrop of the whispering pines. The scent of pine needles and damp earth mingles with the pungent aroma of the ink, a strange, earthy perfume. I pick up a tablet, its smooth surface inviting. I dip the brush in the ink, the bristles heavy and dark. I hesitate. What can I write? What words can possibly capture the essence of a life I never knew? I close my eyes for a moment, letting the silence seep into me, letting the whispers of the stones fill the void. Then I begin to write. I write not about myself, not about my own fears and uncertainties, but about the unknown soul resting beneath this cool, gray stone. I write about the sea, its restless waves mirroring the ebb and flow of life. I write about the storm, its fury, a reflection of the turbulent heart, the tempestuous spirit. I write about the field of chrysanthemums, their vibrant blooms a symbol of resilience, of beauty blooming even in the face of death. I write about the sanctuary of the temple, the scent of incense and the murmur of prayers, a place of solace and reflection. I write about the shared silence of grief, the unspoken understanding that binds us together in the face of loss. I write a poem, not of mourning, but of remembrance, a celebration of a life unknown, a tribute to the spirit that once animated this now still form. It's strange, writing a eulogy for someone you've never met. Surprisingly cathartic. A way to process the grief, the fear, the overwhelming sense of everything. Or perhaps it's just the sake talking. I did have a rather generous cup at the last village. I finished the poem, the last stroke of the brush, a whisper against the wood. I leaned back, studying the characters, the black ink stark against the pale wood. It feels right, a small act of defiance against the oblivion that awaits us all. An acknowledgement of a life lived, a spirit remembered. Respect for ancestors. It's woven into the fabric of our being, a thread that connects us to the past, to the generations that came before. It's in the tea ceremonies, in the festivals, in the quiet reverence with which we approach the shrines. It's in the very stones beneath my feet. The poet watches me, his face a mask of quiet approval. He's been there the entire time, a silent observer, a witness to this strange ritual. He points to the tablet, the words I've written. Then he points to the sky, vast and endless, a canvas of stars beginning to prick the deepening twilight. Finally, he points to my heart, a gentle tap against his own chest. A connection. A legacy. A story carved not just in stone, but in the very fabric of time itself. A silent understanding passes between us, a shared acknowledgement of the ephemeral nature of existence, the enduring power of memory. The wind whispers through the pines, carrying the scent of incense and the faint, almost imperceptible hum of the stones. The spirits are listening. You place the tablet at the head of the grave, a small offering of words against the vastness of eternity. The weathered stone felt cold beneath your fingertips, a stark contrast to the warmth of the tablet clutched in your hand. The words etched into its surface, a final message, a whispered prayer, a plea for peace. The poet nods, a silent acknowledgement of the ritual completed, then gestures towards the temple, its dark silhouette looming large against the twilight sky. A new beginning. Those tablets, by the way, were surprisingly good at resisting rot, unlike my New Year's resolutions. Seriously? Gym membership? Healthy eating? It's like they disintegrate by February. Historians still debate the influence of Shinto beliefs on samurai-era burial practices. Was the placement of offerings a purely symbolic gesture, a nod to ancient animistic traditions? Or did it hold deeper meaning, a belief in a continued existence beyond the veil of death? The prevalence of elaborate grave goods, the meticulous care taken in preparing the deceased for their journey, the very architecture of the tombs themselves, all point towards a complex interplay of spiritual and cultural influences. Some scholars argue that the samurai, faced with the ever-present threat of death, clung to these rituals as a way to find solace, to offer a glimmer of hope in a world defined by violence and uncertainty. Others believe that the practices were primarily social and political, a means of reinforcing hierarchical structures and solidifying clan loyalties, even in death. Whatever the true motivation, the rituals themselves remain echoes of a past that continues to fascinate and intrigue. You follow him back inside the temple, the scent of incense a welcome comfort after the chill night air. It weaves through the shadows, a fragrant tapestry of sandalwood and jasmine, calming the restless spirit and soothing the troubled mind. The flickering lantern light casts long, dancing shadows on the worn wooden floors, giving the space an ethereal quality. You sit beside him, the tatami mats cool beneath your legs, and watch as he unrolls another scroll, this one covered in intricate calligraphy. Each stroke of the brush seems imbued with meaning, a secret language whispered across the centuries. It's a map, not of the physical world but of a spiritual journey. A guide for the lost, a beacon for the seeker, a promise of transformation. Those maps, by the way, were surprisingly accurate, unless you were trying to find the nearest karaoke bar. Then, all bets were off. I once ended up in a pottery class. Don't ask. Quirky tidbit. Some believed that certain rituals could offer a path to second chances. Not just in the metaphorical sense, like learning from your mistakes and trying again. No, this was a literal second chance, a return from the brink, a rewriting of fate itself. These rituals were often shrouded in secrecy, passed down through generations of priests and practitioners, their true nature hidden beneath layers of symbolism and allegory. Some involved elaborate purification ceremonies, cleansing the body and spirit of past transgressions. Others required pilgrimages to sacred sites, seeking the blessings of deities and spirits. Still others spoke of arcane incantations and forbidden texts, promising the power to manipulate the very fabric of reality. Whether these rituals truly held the power they claimed, or whether they simply offered a glimmer of hope in times of despair, is a question lost to the mists of time. He points to a path on the map, a winding route leading through fields of chrysanthemums, their white petals shimmering like fallen snow. The path continues, snaking its way past towering mountains, their peaks shrouded in mist, and across a turbulent sea, its waves crashing against unseen shores. The journey depicted is not one of ease, but of challenge, of perseverance, of transformation. He points to the end of the path, a circle drawn in red ink, vibrant against the aged parchment, a symbol of rebirth. Not just a return to life as it was, but a transcendence, a shedding of the old self, and an emergence into something new, something more. He looks at you, his eyes reflecting the lantern light, ancient wisdom shimmering within their depths. An invitation to choose. Not a command, not a decree, but an offering, a chance to step onto the path, to embark on the journey, to embrace the unknown. The silence hangs heavy in the air, pregnant with possibility. The scent of incense swirls around you, a gentle reminder of the sacred space you inhabit. The flickering lantern light dances on the walls, illuminating the map and the path it reveals. The choice is yours. Will you accept the invitation? Will you embark on the path of second chances? The weight of the decision settles upon you, a heavy mantle of responsibility. The path, though alluring, is also fraught with peril. The fields of chrysanthemums, while beautiful, might conceal hidden thorns. The mountains, though majestic, might prove impassable. The sea, though vast, might swallow you whole. But the circle at the end, that symbol of rebirth, beckons with an undeniable power. It whispers of a future beyond comprehension, a future where the burdens of the past can be shed, where the wounds of the heart can be healed, where the soul can find solace and renewal. The poet's gaze is steady, unwavering, filled with a quiet understanding. He offers no judgment, no pressure, only the opportunity to choose. The path is there. The choice is yours. What will you do? My finger traced the red circle on the map, a vibrant splash of color against the faded parchment. A second chance. A new beginning. A life beyond the shipwreck. It's funny, isn't it, how those red circles are so good at attracting attention? Unlike, say, my dating profile pictures. Just kidding, or am I? Maybe I should add a few red circles to those. Worth a shot, right? The thought, frivolous as it was, helped ease the knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. This map, this circle, represented more than just a geographical location. It was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in a sea of uncertainty. It marked a small village nestled in the foothills of the mountains, a place where I could, hopefully, rebuild my life, far from the wreckage and the memories that clung to me like seaweed. It's fascinating how different cultures view the afterlife, the idea of a new beginning. I remember reading somewhere that in some ancient Japanese spiritual traditions, the concept of rebirth and renewal was deeply ingrained in their beliefs. Cycles of life, death, and rebirth, woven into the very fabric of their existence. It made me wonder, in a way, if this new chapter wasn't a form of rebirth for me too. My gaze shifted to the poet, my unexpected savior. His face, etched with the lines of time and experience, was a map itself, a testament to a life lived fully, a landscape of wisdom and compassion. He sat across from me, his presence a calming anchor in the storm of my emotions. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, acknowledging the swirling mix of hope and fear I knew must be visible on my face. Then, with a graceful gesture, he offered me a small, delicate cup. It was filled with sake, warmed to perfection, the fragrant steam rising to caress my face. I accepted the cup, the warmth seeping into my chilled hands, a welcome sensation. I brought it to my lips and took a tentative sip. The taste surprised me. It was a complex dance of flavors, a blend of bitter and sweet, like life itself. A perfect symbol of duality, I thought, the contrasting forces that shape our experiences, the joy and sorrow, the triumphs and setbacks, all interwoven into the tapestry of our existence. Ever tried warm sake? It's surprisingly good, especially after a near-death experience. Just a little tip from your friendly neighborhood historian. It's moments like these, small and seemingly insignificant, that anchor you back to the present, remind you that you're alive, that you're here, now. I looked back at the scroll. The map spread out before us like a promise of possibilities. The red circle pulsed with a silent energy, a beacon calling me forward. The poet smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that radiated warmth and reassurance. He then gestured towards the temple gates, visible through the open shoji screens. The path awaits. It was time. It's strange, how little we actually understand about the past. I've spent years studying ancient maps, trying to decipher their secrets, to understand the minds of those who created them. Historians still argue whether ancient Japanese maps like this one were based more on spiritual beliefs or practical geography. Were they representations of the physical world? Or were they imbued with deeper symbolic meanings reflecting a spiritual worldview? Perhaps it was a blend of both. Perhaps the lines between the physical and the spiritual were more blurred than we, with our modern sensibilities, can fully grasp. I stood, my legs a little shaky, my heart beating a frantic rhythm of hope and uncertainty. The world outside those temple gates was a vast unknown, filled with both promise and peril. I looked back at the small room that had been my sanctuary for the past few weeks. The simple futon where I had slept, the inkstone and brushes the poet had provided, the scroll that now held the key to my future. It was a bittersweet moment, a culmination of an ending and the beginning of something new. A sanctuary, a memory, a farewell. Taking a deep breath, I bowed to the poet, a gesture of gratitude that words couldn't express. He returned the bow, his eyes filled with a quiet understanding. Then, turning towards the open gates, I stepped out into the sunlight, leaving the shadows of the past behind, embracing the unknown with a tentative yet determined step. The path awaited, winding its way through the foothills, towards the red circle, towards my new beginning. And as I walked, I carried with me the warmth of the sake, the wisdom of the poet, and the unwavering hope of a second chance. The morning air, cool against my skin, was a welcome change from the musty stillness of the temple. I stepped out into the sunlight, the field of chrysanthemums a vibrant splash of color. They stretched before me, seemingly endless, bathed in the warm glow of the rising sun. That path, a narrow ribbon of dirt winding through the sea of blossoms, beckoned. Those chrysanthemums, by the way, were surprisingly resilient. Imagine blooming even after a flood, unlike my houseplants. Just kidding, or am I? It's amazing what can survive when it has to. And speaking of survival, did you know chrysanthemums were sometimes used in medicinal teas? Just a little herbal tip in case you happen to be shipwrecked near a field of them. You never know. I took one last look back at the temple. The poet stood at the gate, his lantern now extinguished, a silhouette against the dark wood. He nodded, a silent farewell, a quiet understanding passing between us. I turned, my eyes fixed on the distant mountains, their peaks shrouded in mist. The journey begins. Ever tried walking in sandals? It's surprisingly comfortable, once you get used to the blisters. You probably won't survive this. But hey, at least my feet will be stylishly ventilated when I finally collapse from exhaustion. The path stretched before me, dusty and uneven. Travel in ancient Japan was often challenging, a fact I was quickly rediscovering. Each step sent a small puff of dust into the air, swirling around my ankles. The sun climbed higher, the air growing warmer with each passing moment. The rhythmic crunch of my sandals on the dirt path was the only sound, a steady beat accompanying my thoughts. As I trudged along, I noticed something odd, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a change so slight I almost dismissed it. The air hummed with a quiet energy, a low, thrumming vibration that resonated deep within me. The trees, ancient and gnarled, seemed to lean in towards the path, as if listening. Their branches, heavy with leaves, whispered secrets to the wind. I stopped, my heart beating with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The world felt different, alive, pulsating with an unseen energy. Those trees, by the way, were sometimes believed to hold spirits. Just a little something to keep in mind if you happen to be lost in a Japanese forest. Not that I'm suggesting you will be lost. But, just in case. The feeling intensified. a tingling sensation spreading through my limbs. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath, trying to understand the strange energy that permeated the air. It felt ancient, powerful, connected to the very earth beneath my feet. Historians still debate the extent to which nature worship influenced samurai-era spiritual practices. Standing here, surrounded by the whispering trees and the humming air, it wasn't hard to imagine how the natural world could inspire awe and reverence. It felt as though the very air was charged with the whispers of forgotten gods, the echoes of ancient rituals. I continued along the path, the feeling of being watched never quite leaving me. The trees seemed to follow my progress, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The sunlight, filtering through the dense canopy, dappled the ground in shifting patterns of light and shadow. The air, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, filled my lungs with each breath. It was a world of vibrant life, a world where the line between the physical and the spiritual seemed blurred, almost non-existent. The path began to climb, winding its way up a gentle slope. The trees grew thicker, the canopy overhead becoming denser, blocking out more and more of the sunlight. The air grew cooler, the humming sensation fading slightly, replaced by a sense of anticipation. I could feel the energy of the mountains, a silent, powerful presence looming ahead. What awaited me at the end of this path? What secrets did the mountains hold? The questions swirled in my mind, unanswered, fueling my journey forward. Each step was an act of faith, a commitment to the unknown. The path, though uncertain, was mine to follow. The journey, though daunting, was mine to embrace. And so, I walked on, drawn forward by the mysteries that lay ahead, into the heart of the ancient mountains. The path wound its way upwards, a relentless ribbon of gray against the deepening green of the mountainside. Each step took me higher, the air growing noticeably thinner, cooler, a stark contrast to the humid warmth of the valley below. The trees, no longer the vibrant, youthful green of the lower slopes, were now gnarled and ancient, their branches twisted and contorted by the relentless winds and the passage of time. They seemed to watch me with a silent wisdom, their deep-rooted stillness a stark contrast to my own labored breathing. These mountains, by the way, were considered sacred spaces, not a place for loud music or littering. You probably won't survive this. Not physically, maybe, but spiritually. Who knows? Best to tread carefully. Respect the quiet. Mountains, I'd read somewhere, were often seen as places of spiritual power, conduits between the earthly realm and the heavens, points of connection, where the veil between worlds thinned, allowing glimpses into the divine. I could feel it now. A palpable shift in the atmosphere, a hush that went deeper than the absence of birdsong. It was a silence that resonated, a silence that spoke volumes. I stopped, breathless, at a small shrine nestled amongst the rocks. It was almost swallowed by the mountain, a tiny pocket of reverence carved into the immense landscape. A wooden torii gate, weathered and worn smooth by the elements, marked the entrance. Its faded red paint peeled away like sunburnt skin, revealing the aged wood beneath. It stood as a sentinel, guarding the sacred space within. I noticed something odd. Resting on a flat stone before the shrine was a small offering of rice and sake, placed neatly in small earthenware bowls. A recent visitor. Someone else had felt the pull of this place, sought solace, or offered thanks within the mountain's embrace. These shrines, by the way, were surprisingly well built. Imagine surviving centuries of earthquakes, unlike my Lego creations. Just kidding. Or am I? Those tiny plastic bricks wouldn't stand a chance against the tremors that these ancient structures had endured. I stepped carefully through the torii gate, feeling a sense of reverence wash over me. I bowed my head, offering a silent prayer. My words, unspoken, were a mix of gratitude for the journey, for the strength to continue, and a deep, unsettling uncertainty about what lay ahead. I looked up at the towering peaks above, their jagged silhouettes piercing the vast expanse of blue sky. There was a connection here, a tangible link between the earth and the heavens, a sense of belonging, of being a small part of something infinitely larger than myself. These prayers, by the way, were sometimes believed to attract the attention of the gods. Just a little something to keep in mind if you happen to be lost in the mountains. Not that I was lost. Exactly. Misplaced, perhaps, temporarily, directionally challenged, but certainly not lost. Not yet, anyway. The shrine itself was simple, a small wooden structure with a gently sloping roof. It felt ancient, imbued with a sense of history that went beyond mere years and touched something deeper, something almost primal. Small shrines like this, I remembered reading, were often dedicated to local spirits or deities, guardians of the mountains, protectors of travelers. Each peak, each valley, each grove of trees could have its own spirit, its own unique energy. It was a complex tapestry of belief woven into the very fabric of the landscape. I thought about the offering of rice and sake. Who had left it? A pilgrim seeking enlightenment? A local villager offering thanks for a bountiful harvest? Or perhaps a traveler, like myself, seeking guidance on their journey? It was a small gesture, yet it spoke volumes about the enduring power of belief, the human need to connect with something beyond the mundane, to find meaning and purpose in the vastness of existence. Historians, I recalled, still argue about the role of oracles in ancient Japanese society. Were they truly conduits to the divine, able to interpret the whispers of the gods and offer guidance to mortals? Or were they simply shrewd interpreters of human nature, skilled at reading the anxieties and hopes of those who sought their counsel? The truth, I suspected, lay somewhere in between, a blend of belief and interpretation, of genuine spiritual connection and astute observation. The mountains themselves, I realized, were like silent oracles, their presence a constant reminder of the forces that shaped the world, the cycles of life and death, the ebb and flow of time. Their wisdom, etched into the rocks and whispered on the wind, was there for anyone who cared to listen. I lingered at the shrine for a while longer, soaking in the stillness, the sense of peace that permeated the air. The mountains, in their silent wisdom, offered no easy answers, no clear-cut solutions to the questions that plagued me, but they did offer something far more valuable, a perspective, a reminder that my own struggles, my own uncertainties, were but a small part of a much larger story. A story that had been unfolding for millennia, a story that would continue long after I was gone. And in that realization, there was a strange sense of comfort, a sense of belonging, a sense of peace. The path, worn smooth by countless feet and the relentless passage of time, dipped sharply downwards, the air growing thick with the roar of water. It started as a low rumble, a distant whisper on the wind, then swelled into a deafening symphony of power and chaos. The river. It called to you, beckoned you forward with a voice both alluring and menacing. These rivers, they were notoriously unpredictable, fickle, like a restless spirit. Imagine trying to cross one during the rainy season, the water swollen and angry, debris churning in its depths. A whirlpool of muddy death. You probably won't survive this. The thought sent a shiver down your spine, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked around every bend in this strange land. It was a land steeped in folklore, where the line between the physical and the spiritual blurred. Some believed, you'd heard whispered in hushed tones, that certain rivers, the ones that roared the loudest, the ones that swallowed men whole, held the very spirits of the deceased, ferrying them to the next world, or perhaps holding them captive in their watery embrace. The trees thinned, revealing the riverbank. The water was a churning torrent of gray and white, the surface fractured by hidden rocks and the relentless force of the current. Spray kissed your face, cold and sharp. You hesitated, the memory of the shipwreck, the icy grip of the sea, still fresh in your mind. The gnawing fear, the desperate struggle for air, it clung to you like seaweed. Another watery grave? The thought made your stomach churn. But then, your eyes fell upon something unexpected. Resting on the shore, nestled amongst the reeds and smooth river stones, was a small wooden boat. Empty, weathered, an invitation, almost too convenient, almost staged. These boats, though surprisingly well-built, sturdy little vessels, unless, of course, you happen to be sharing one with a sumo wrestler, then all bets were off. You could practically hear the groaning wood, the desperate splash as you both plunged into the churning depths. Rivers, you knew, held a significant place in Japanese life, not just as sources of water for fishing and transport practicalities, but also as sacred spaces, conduits to the spirit world. History books and scrolls were filled with their importance. They were woven into the fabric of society, as essential to daily life as the air itself. This river before you, it felt like more than just water. It felt alive. Taking a deep breath, you stepped into the boat. The wood creaked a mournful protest beneath your weight, a sound that seemed to echo the anxieties swirling within you. You pushed off from the shore, the riverbed slick with moss offering little resistance. Immediately, the current grabbed hold, pulling you into its turbulent embrace. One moment you were on solid ground. The next you were at the mercy of the river's whims. It was a strange sensation, this surrender to the flow. Like life itself, the river carried you forward, whether you were ready or not. The shore receded quickly, the trees becoming a blurred tapestry of green and brown. The roar of the water intensified, drowning out all other sounds. Ever tried navigating a rushing river in a wooden boat? It's surprisingly exhilarating. The wind in your hair, the spray on your face, the feeling of speed and power, it's intoxicating. Until you hit a rock, or a submerged log, or get swept into a whirlpool. Then, it's terrifying. You probably won't survive this. The boat rocked precariously, tossed this way and that, by the relentless current. You gripped the sides, your knuckles white, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. The thought of the shipwreck, the icy grip of the sea, resurfaced with renewed intensity. This river, was it a passage to the next stage of your journey, or another watery grave? As you were swept downstream, you couldn't help but think about the significance of boats in this culture. You'd read somewhere that historians still debated the role of boats in samurai period burial rituals. Were they symbolic vessels carrying the souls of the departed to the afterlife? Or were they simply practical means of disposing of the dead, sending them downriver to where? The thought was unsettling. Was this little boat your own personal funeral barge? Were you, in some strange, symbolic way, already dead? The river surged forward, relentless in its journey to the sea. And you, caught in its turbulent embrace, were carried along with it. Towards what? Only the river knew. The river carries me downstream, a gentle current guiding my small boat. The trees lining the banks blur into a seamless tapestry of green, the world outside shrinking, simplifying. The rhythmic lapping of water against the hull, once a frantic roar, now soothes, a lullaby rocking me into a strange sense of peace. Those riverbanks, by the way, were a great place for spotting wildlife, deer, herons, the occasional badger, and also avoiding angry bears. You probably won't survive this. Just saying. The current whispers secrets in my ear as I drift, secrets of the mountains it tumbled down, of the villages it passed. The sunlight dapples the water, creating an intricate dance of light and shadow. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, I feel a connection to this ancient land, a sense of belonging I haven't felt in, well, ever. It's strange to find solace in the very wilderness that threatens to consume me. It reminds me of something I once read about samurai poetry, how they found beauty and meaning in the natural world, even in the face of hardship and uncertainty. Nature was a frequent subject of their poetry, a way to connect with something larger than themselves. I wish I could remember a specific poem, something fitting for this moment, but my mind is, well, it's been through a lot lately. Then, through the shifting patterns of sunlight and shadow, I see something familiar. A burst of vibrant color, a splash of gold against the green. Chrysanthemums. A whole field of them stretching along the riverbank, swaying gently in the breeze. The same field where I washed ashore, broken and battered, clinging to life by a thread. It feels significant, a full circle, like the river has brought me back to where I began, offering me a second chance. Or maybe it's just mocking me. Those chrysanthemums, by the way, were surprisingly good at attracting bees. Just a little something to keep in mind if you happen to be allergic. You probably won't survive this. Between the bears and the bees, my odds aren't looking great. I grip the makeshift paddle, steering the boat towards the shore. The water grows calmer as I approach, the lapping giving way to a gentle ripple. I nudge the boat against the soft earth, the sound muffled and strangely final. Stepping out, I feel the earth yield beneath my feet, soft and welcoming. It's a stark contrast to the hard, unforgiving rocks of the riverbed. The scent of chrysanthemums fills the air, richer and sweeter than I remember. It's almost overwhelming, a heady fragrance that speaks of life and renewal. A symbol of rebirth? Maybe. Or maybe just a really fragrant flower. I walk into the field, the tall stems brushing against my legs, the petals tickling my skin. The flowers are everywhere, a sea of gold and white stretching as far as the eye can see. It's beautiful, peaceful, dangerously peaceful. Those chrysanthemum fields, by the way, were sometimes used for hiding from your enemies or from bill collectors. Just kidding, or am I? Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if a debt collector popped out from behind a particularly large chrysanthemum. I pick a flower, examining its intricate petals, the delicate veins that run through them like tiny rivers. I remember reading somewhere that chrysanthemum petals were sometimes used in cooking. A little floral fact I tucked away, hoping it might come in handy someday. Maybe I could make a chrysanthemum salad, or a chrysanthemum tea. Probably taste awful. But hey, when you're stranded in the wilderness, you can't be too picky. Besides, I've eaten worse things, much worse. Like that, well, never mind. Some things are better left unsaid. Standing here, surrounded by these vibrant blooms, I find myself thinking about the history of this land, the people who lived here before me, the rituals and beliefs that shaped their lives. I've read that historians still argue about the role of flowers in ancient Japanese spiritual practices. Were they simply offerings of beauty, or did they hold deeper symbolic meaning? Were they seen as conduits to the spirit world, or simply as expressions of reverence for the natural world? I wish I knew more. I wish I had the time to learn more. But time, like everything else in this unforgiving wilderness, is a luxury I can't afford. For now, I stand here, breathing in the sweet scent of chrysanthemums, letting the gentle breeze wash over me, and trying to appreciate the fragile beauty of this moment, knowing that it might be my last. The river has brought me full circle, back to the place where my journey began. What happens next is anyone's guess, but for now at least, I'm alive. And that, in itself, is a miracle. The field stretched before me, a sea of white and gold. Each step sent waves of chrysanthemum petals rippling outwards, brushing against my skin like a gentle caress. The sun, warm on my face, chased away the lingering chill of the river. These petals, by the way, were surprisingly good at sticking to my clothes, unlike my good intentions. Just kidding, or am I? I plucked a particularly stubborn petal from my sleeve, its delicate fragrance filling the air. It's funny how something so small can hold so much beauty. I paused, letting the warmth of the sun soak into me, enjoying the peace before whatever comes next. I had a feeling things were about to get a lot more complicated. It's interesting to think that some samurai clans used chrysanthemums as their symbol, a flower representing such delicate beauty, wielded by warriors. There's a certain poetry in that, isn't there? I reached the edge of the field, the golden sea, giving way to a well-worn path. It wound its way towards a distant village, nestled amongst the rolling hills. The sound of human voices, faint but clear, carried on the breeze. Laughter, chatter, the clang of a hammer against metal, the sounds of life, of community. A new destination. Those villages, by the way, were a great place for finding food and shelter, and also avoiding gossip. You probably won't survive this. I couldn't help but smirk. Gossip is a powerful weapon, especially in a small community. I hoped my arrival wouldn't cause too much of a stir. Though knowing my luck, I'd probably trip over the village elder and spill a bucket of something important. Village life was an important part of ancient Japanese society, wasn't it? I remember reading about it somewhere. The intricate social structures, the festivals, the reliance on the land. It's a world so different from my own, yet there's something about it that draws me in. A sense of connection, of belonging, something I haven't felt in a long time. Perhaps this village holds some answers, or perhaps it just holds another set of challenges. Either way, I had to keep moving. I looked back at the river, the boat now a distant speck on the water. Had it really only been this morning that I was adrift, unsure of my fate? It felt like a lifetime ago. The mountain, a silent sentinel, rose behind me, its peak shrouded in mist. A reminder of the journey I'd already undertaken, and the challenges I'd overcome. I turned, my eyes fixed on the village. The journey continues. Ever tried walking in straw sandals for miles? It's an experience. Let's just say, you'll appreciate socks a lot more after this. You probably won't survive this. My feet were already starting to ache, the straps of the sandals digging into my skin. I shifted my weight, trying to find a more comfortable position, but it was no use. I just had to keep walking, one step at a time. The closer I got to the village, the clearer the sounds became. I could now make out individual voices, the barking of dogs, the rhythmic thud of a loom. The smell of wood smoke hung heavy in the air, mingled with the sweet scent of cooking rice. It was a comforting aroma, a promise of warmth and sustenance. I hoped they had some decent steak too. After the day I'd had, I deserved a drink. Or two. Historians still debate the impact of trade on village life in ancient Japan. I wonder how this particular village interacted with the outside world. Was it a hub of commerce or a secluded haven? Did they welcome travelers, or were they wary of outsiders? I adjusted the pack on my shoulder, feeling the weight of my meager possessions. I hoped they would be welcoming. I was tired, hungry, and in desperate need of a bath. Not necessarily in that order. The path widened as I approached the village entrance, revealing a cluster of thatched roof houses nestled around a central square. Children ran through the streets, their laughter echoing through the air. Villagers went about their daily tasks, their faces etched with the familiar lines of hard work and quiet dignity. A group of men were repairing a fishing net, their hands moving with practiced ease. A woman tended a small garden, her fingers gently coaxing life from the soil. It was a scene of peaceful domesticity, a world away from the dangers I had faced on the river. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the unknown. This was it, a new chapter, a new path. I stepped into the village, the eyes of its inhabitants turning towards me. A hush fell over the square, the laughter and chatter fading into silence. For a moment, I was the center of attention, a stranger in a strange land. Then, a smile broke out on the face of an elderly woman, her eyes crinkling at the corners. She nodded in greeting, and the spell was broken. The villagers returned to their tasks, their curiosity satisfied. I was just another traveler passing through. For now, I walked towards the center of the square, my eyes scanning the faces around me. Where to go? Who to talk to? It was time to start exploring. Time to discover the secrets of this hidden village, and perhaps to discover something about myself along the way. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the square. The air grew cooler, the sounds of the village softening as the day drew to a close. This was where I would spend the night. This was my new reality. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I would survive this after all. The path wound ever onward, the sun now a blazing eye in the vast expanse of the sky. Ahead, the village, a huddled cluster of thatched roofs and crisscrossing wooden fences, grew larger with each step. The air, once filled only with the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of a bird, now vibrated with the sounds of life. The joyous peal of laughter, the sharp clang of metal striking metal, the rhythmic thud of wood meeting wood. Those thatched roofs, by the way, were surprisingly good at keeping out the rain, unlike my umbrella. Just kidding. Or am I? The steady rhythm of hammer against iron brought to mind the history books, the faded pages whispering of a time when metalworking was a revered craft, a skill passed down through generations, a source of both pride and prosperity. The smith, a vital figure in any village, held a position of respect, his ability to transform raw materials into tools and weapons, essential for survival and defense. It made me think of my own attempts at DIY. Let's just say I'm better at consuming things than creating them. Finally, the edge of the village. The air, thick now with the aroma of cooking fires and wood smoke, carried a tantalizing promise of warmth and rest. But something shifted in the atmosphere. The laughter faded, the clang of the smithy's hammer stilled, the rhythmic pounding ceased. Every head turned, every eye focused, every movement froze. They stared, these villagers, their faces a canvas painted with curiosity and suspicion, their gazes sharp and unwavering. A stranger, I felt the weight of their scrutiny, the invisible barrier erected between us. The silent acknowledgement that I was an outsider, an unknown element in their familiar world. Those villagers, by the way, were surprisingly good at spotting outsiders, unlike my attempts at blending in at karaoke night. Just kidding, or am I? A figure detached itself from the silent crowd, an elderly woman, her face a roadmap of time, etched with lines that spoke of years lived and wisdom earned. She moved with a surprising grace, her steps slow but steady. Her eyes, though aged, held a spark of intelligence and assessment. She stopped a few paces away, her gaze searching mine. Then she spoke, her voice a low, melodic murmur, a welcome sound after the silence of the monk and the ramblings of the poet. Her words, though unfamiliar, held a warmth, an offer of peace. She offered food, shelter, a place among them. It was an unexpected kindness, a beacon of hope in the face of uncertainty. Those elderly women, by the way, were the keepers of village wisdom, and also the best gossips. You probably won't survive this. Her offer brought to mind another historical tidbit, hospitality. In this era, it wasn't merely good manners. It was a sacred duty, a deeply ingrained cultural imperative. To turn away a traveler, to refuse them food and shelter, was a grave transgression, a violation of the unspoken laws that bound these communities together. It spoke to a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of life, the shared vulnerability of human existence, the recognition that even strangers deserved compassion and care. Accepting the woman's offer, I followed her into the heart of the village. The curious stares followed us, but the initial tension seemed to have eased, replaced by a muted curiosity. Children peeked from behind doorways, their eyes wide with wonder. Men nodded in acknowledgement, their faces impassive but not unfriendly. Women whispered amongst themselves, their voices too low to decipher, but their glances hinting at the unspoken conversations that surely revolved around the newcomer in their midst. It made me wonder about the lives of these women, their roles within the village structure, their influence, their power. Historians still debate the role of women in village governance during the samurai period. Some argue that their influence was largely confined to the domestic sphere, while others maintain that they wielded considerable power behind the scenes, shaping decisions and influencing events in ways that often went unrecorded. It was a fascinating puzzle, a glimpse into a world where the written record often failed to capture the full complexity of lived experience. The woman led me to a small but sturdy dwelling, its thatched roof thick and well-maintained, its wooden walls weathered but strong. Inside, a fire crackled merrily in the hearth, casting a warm, inviting glow. The air was filled with the comforting scent of simmering stew, a promise of nourishment and respite. She gestured for me to sit, and a young girl, perhaps her granddaughter, brought me a bowl of steaming food and a cup of something hot and fragrant. I ate gratefully, savoring the warmth of the fire, the taste of the food, the simple comfort of shelter. As I ate, the woman watched me, her eyes keen and observant. I knew that she was assessing me, weighing my intentions, trying to determine if I was friend or foe. I knew, too, that my every word, every gesture would be scrutinized, analyzed, dissected. I was a stranger in a strange land, and I was acutely aware of the precariousness of my position. The village had offered me sanctuary, but it remained to be seen whether I would be able to earn their trust, to find a place within their tightly knit community. The whispers of the village had already begun, and I knew that they would continue to swirl around me, shaping my fate in ways I could not yet foresee. I followed her, the rhythmic click-clack of her geta sandals a soft counterpoint to the bustling village sounds. Her home, nestled near the center of the village, was small but inviting, a haven of calm amidst the activity. Sunlight streamed through the open doorway, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air and falling upon a simple wooden loom that dominated the main room. She gestured for me to sit beside her on a worn cushion, and I did, my modern sensibilities already feeling overwhelmed. This was a lot. She sat at the loom, her back straight, her hands moving with a practiced grace that was almost hypnotic. It was like watching a dance, a silent conversation between her and the threads. The threads themselves were a riot of color, a vibrant tapestry waiting to be born. Crimson, azure, emerald, gold. They intertwined and shifted beneath her skilled fingers, slowly transforming from a chaotic jumble into something beautiful, something purposeful. Those looms, by the way, were surprisingly complex. Imagine creating intricate patterns with just threads and wood. It's mind-boggling. You have these vertical threads, the warp, held taut on the frame, and then you weave the horizontal threads, the weft, over and under, over and under. It's like some kind of ancient binary code, but with way more style, You probably won't survive this. Just saying. The steady click-clack of the wooden parts of the loom, the whisper of the threads as they interlaced, it created a surprisingly soothing rhythm. I could almost understand why weaving was often seen as a meditative practice. It demanded focus, patience, a quieting of the internal chatter to concentrate on the task at hand. In a world filled with noise and uncertainty, the loom offered a space of quiet contemplation, a place to create and to connect with something tangible, something beautiful. Textiles, I knew, were an important part of Japanese culture. From the elaborate kimonos worn by the nobility to the simple, functional clothing of the working class, woven fabrics played a vital role in everyday life. They weren't just about practicality. They were a form of artistic expression, a way to communicate status, beliefs, and even emotions. Thinking about the sheer history embedded within the simple act of weaving made me feel strangely small, a fleeting blip in the grand tapestry of time. My gaze drifted down to the fabric, slowly emerging from the loom. It was a deep, rich blue, the color of the midnight sky. And then I saw it, woven into the fabric, a pattern of chrysanthemums, their petals a vibrant gold against the dark background. My breath caught in my throat. Chrysanthemums, the symbol of the emperor, a flower associated with longevity, rejuvenation, and rebirth. A connection. A reminder of the reason I was here, the impossible task before me. Those chrysanthemum patterns, by the way, were surprisingly fashionable, timeless even. Unlike my socks and sandals combo. Just kidding, or am I? The woman sensed my shift in attention. She paused in her work, a gentle smile gracing her lips. Her eyes, the color of warm honey, met mine, and then she gestured towards the loom. An invitation. An opportunity to learn. My stomach lurched. Learning to weave, by the way, requires patience. Lots and lots of patience. The kind of patience I definitely do not possess. It's not just about moving the threads back and forth. There's a precise rhythm, a specific tension, a whole intricate dance between the hands, the feet, and the loom itself. You have to keep track of multiple threads, manage the tension, and somehow, magically, create these intricate designs. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while riding a unicycle. Blindfolded, you probably won't survive this. I'm just being realistic here. I hesitated, my mind reeling. This felt significant somehow, more than just learning a craft. It felt like stepping into a tradition that stretched back centuries, a connection to the past, to the very essence of this place. And honestly, the idea of trying to master this intricate art form was more than a little intimidating. I knew historians still argued about the origins of different weaving techniques in ancient Japan. Some believed certain techniques were imported from the mainland, while others argued they were indigenous developments. The complexities of the different regional styles, the evolution of loom technology over time. It was a rabbit hole of historical debate that could easily consume a lifetime of study. And here I was, about to potentially bumble my way through a centuries-old tradition. The pressure was immense. But the woman's smile was encouraging, her eyes full of a quiet understanding that transcended words. I took a deep breath, pushed aside my apprehension, and reached towards the loom. This was it. Sink or swim. Or, more likely, get hopelessly tangled in a mess of threads. The loom sits before me, a wooden skeleton, holding the promise of creation. The woman beside me, her hands gnarled with years of practice, guides my own, clumsy and hesitant. The threads, cool and smooth against my skin, feel like a whisper of welcome. The rhythmic clatter of the shuttle, back and forth, a steady heartbeat against the soft susurrus of the threads sliding against each other, creates a meditative calm. It's almost hypnotic. Almost. Those shuttles, by the way, were surprisingly good at flying across the loom, unlike my attempts at throwing a baseball. Just kidding, or am I? I've never considered myself a particularly crafty person. My talents lie elsewhere, in realms less tangible than the creation of physical objects. Yet here I am, learning the ancient art of weaving, my fingers slowly becoming accustomed to the intricate dance required to coax the threads into submission. It's a humbling experience, this submission to the process, to the rhythm, to the wisdom of the woman beside me. She speaks little, but her presence is a comforting weight, a silent reassurance that I can do this, that I will find my place here. I think about the history woven into each thread, the countless hands that have toiled over similar looms throughout the generations. It's a lineage of creation, a tapestry of human endeavor stretching back through time. Textiles, I've learned, were often used as gifts or offerings, imbued with meaning and symbolism, a tangible expression of respect, gratitude, love. I wonder what stories these threads hold, what hopes and dreams are embedded within their fibers. Day after day, I sit at the loom, the hours melting away, as the patterns slowly emerge beneath my fingers. Chrysanthemums, vibrant and bold, a symbol of longevity and joy. Mountains, steadfast and unwavering, representing strength and resilience. Rivers, fluid and ever-changing, a testament to the constant flow of life. These symbols, the emblems of my journey, are now being woven into the fabric of my new life, a tangible representation of my integration into this unfamiliar world. Weaving with silk, by the way, is slippery business. You'll need nimble fingers for this. You probably won't survive this. It requires a delicate touch, a sensitivity to the nuances of the material, just like navigating the complexities of this new culture. The woman beside me nods, her eyes crinkling at the corners, her smile a gentle affirmation of my growing skill. I look at the cloth taking shape before me, the threads intertwining, a testament to my resilience, my adaptability, my burgeoning sense of belonging. It's more than just a piece of fabric. It's a reflection of my journey, a tangible expression of my transformation. These threads, by the way, were surprisingly strong, unlike my willpower when faced with a plate of mochi. Just kidding. Or am I? I've learned that the colors I choose, the patterns I weave, hold symbolic meaning. Crimson for passion and vitality, indigo for tranquility and wisdom, gold for prosperity and good fortune. Each thread, each color, each pattern adds another layer of meaning to the tapestry I am creating. A silent language, spoken through the interplay of color and form. It's a fascinating glimpse into the rich cultural heritage of this place, a reminder that even the smallest details hold significance. Historians, I've discovered, still debate the social significance of textile production in samurai period Japan. Was it simply a domestic task, relegated to the women of the household? Or did it hold a deeper meaning, a connection to the spiritual and cultural fabric of society? The answers, it seems, are as complex and interwoven as the threads themselves. It makes me wonder about the women who sat at these looms before me, their lives and stories lost to the passage of time. What did they think as their fingers danced across the threads? What hopes and dreams did they weave into their creations? The rhythmic clatter of the shuttle becomes a meditative mantra, a soothing balm to my restless spirit. The threads, no longer unfamiliar, now feel like an extension of myself, a conduit through which I can express the emotions and experiences that words cannot capture. The process of weaving has become a form of therapy, a way to process the upheaval of my life, to find solace in the repetitive motions, in the tangible creation of something beautiful and meaningful. As I continue to weave, the patterns become more intricate, the colors more vibrant, the story I am telling more complex. The chrysanthemums bloom with renewed vigor, the mountains stand tall against the horizon, the rivers flow with unwavering strength. And within the threads, interwoven with the silk and the symbolism, is the quiet affirmation of my belonging. I am no longer an outsider, a stranger in a strange land. I am a weaver, a storyteller, a thread in the tapestry of this community. The loom is no longer just a piece of furniture. It is my sanctuary, my connection to the past, my bridge to the future. And the threads, once a cool whisper against my skin, are now a warm embrace, welcoming me home. The days melted into weeks, the weeks into months. The rhythmic clatter of the loom, a steady beat against the backdrop of village life, became the soundtrack to my new existence. The warp and weft, the interplay of threads, mirrored the intricate dance of settling into this unfamiliar place. And the looms, those looms were cat magnets. Seriously, if you've ever seen a cartoon where a ball of yarn explodes and 1,000 cats appear, that's what my weaving corner looked like most days. Fluffy, purring, occasionally yarn-stealing menaces. It was a good thing I wasn't allergic. If I were, let's just say this chapter would have ended very differently. Survival would have been unlikely. But the cats, I learned, had a purpose beyond just being adorable fluff balls. They were the guardians of the precious textiles, tiny tigers, protecting against the ever-present threat of mice. A practical, albeit furry, security system. The rhythm of the loom echoed the rhythms of the village itself. Sunrise brought the rooster's crow and the lowing of cattle. Days were punctuated by the clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the rhythmic thud of the farmer's hoe, the cheerful chatter of children playing in the dusty streets. Evenings were filled with the crackling of fires, the murmur of conversations, the shared laughter spilling out from open doorways. The seasons dictated the flow of life. Planting in spring, tending in summer, harvesting in autumn, huddling together against the winter chill. Slowly, subtly, I began to understand the language of the land. Not just the spoken words, but the unspoken language of shared work, of communal celebrations, of quiet moments of understanding that transcended words. I learned the local dialect, stumbling over unfamiliar pronunciations at first, then gradually finding my voice. I learned the stories of the village, passed down through generations, tales of bravery, of hardship, of love and loss. I shared my own stories, hesitant at first, then with growing confidence, finding that my experiences, though different, resonated with the universal themes of the human heart. We laughed together, sharing jokes that lost something in translation, but somehow still landed. We mourned together, offering silent comfort in shared moments of grief. We worked together, our hands moving in unison as we planted rice paddies, harvested crops, and prepared for the festivals that marked the turning of the seasons. Those villagers, by the way, could throw a festival like nobody's business. Colorful decorations, lively music, delicious food. It put my pathetic attempts at party planning to shame. Just kidding, mostly. There was a genuine sense of joy, of community, that infused every celebration, a spirit of togetherness that I had never experienced before. It was home. This sense of community, I learned, wasn't just a charming quirk of village life. It was essential. It was the bedrock of their survival, a safety net woven from shared responsibility and mutual support. History books often talk about the samurai and the powerful daimyo. But the real strength of this era, the real heart of the nation, lay in the interconnectedness of these small communities. They relied on each other, supported each other, and celebrated together, creating a resilience that could withstand even the harshest storms. Of course, the impact of those storms, the earthquakes and typhoons that periodically ravaged the land, is still debated by historians. Did they strengthen the bonds of community, forging an even deeper sense of interdependence? Or did they tear at the fabric of village life, leaving scars that lingered for generations? The answer, like so much of history, is probably complex and nuanced. But sitting around the fire, listening to the elders tell stories of past hardships overcome through shared effort, I felt a profound sense of the strength and resilience that lay at the heart of village life. I looked at the cloth I had woven. The vibrant chrysanthemums, once a symbol of grief and loss, had blossomed anew, their golden hues a testament to my own rebirth, my second chance at life. The intricate patterns, learned from the patient hands of the village women, reflected the intricate tapestry of relationships I had woven into my new existence. This wasn't just cloth. It was a story, a testament to the healing power of community. I looked at the woman beside me, one of the many who had welcomed me into their fold. Her smile, weathered by years of sun and wind, was a warm embrace, a silent affirmation of belonging. She didn't need words to tell me that I was home. I saw it in her eyes, in the gentle curve of her lips, in the comfortable silence that settled between us as we sat together, the rhythmic clatter of the loom, a steady heartbeat in the stillness of the evening air. I was home, not just in this village, in this house, but in the heart of this community, in the warmth of their acceptance. I was home. The river flows peacefully now, a gentle reminder of the storm that brought me here. I sit on the bank, the smooth stones cool beneath my hand. The water gurgles and whispers, a soothing melody. These rivers, by the way, were a great place for fishing and also avoiding crocodiles. Just kidding, or am I? It wouldn't surprise me if something lurked beneath the surface, something unseen, something hungry. I shiver, despite the warmth of the afternoon sun. There were stories, whispered around the firelight, of river spirits, malevolent beings that demanded respect. Some believed that certain rituals could appease these spirits, offerings of flowers and whispered prayers. It made me wonder, as I watched the sunlight dance on the water, If the river held more than just fish and stones. I close my eyes, breathing deeply, letting the scent of chrysanthemums carried on the gentle breeze transport me. The fragrance takes me back to the day I washed ashore, battered and broken, more driftwood than man. I remember the silent monk, his eyes holding a universe of understanding I couldn't fathom. The wandering poet, his words painting vivid pictures of lands I'd never seen, lands I might never see again. The weaver, her hands moving with a practiced grace, transforming simple threads into intricate patterns, a silent metaphor for the way my life was being rewoven. The villagers, their faces etched with concern, their hands offering warmth and food, a haven in the storm. The fragments of my past, shattered by the shipwreck, now slowly, painstakingly, being woven into the tapestry of my present. Ever tried meditating by a river? It's surprisingly relaxing until a mosquito bites you. You probably won't survive this. The itching, the incessant buzzing, it's enough to drive a sane man mad. And then there's the worry about disease. One small bite and, well, let's just say it's best not to think about it. I swat at the air, a futile gesture against an invisible enemy. Meditation, they tell me, is good for the soul. It calms the mind, centers the spirit. Historical fact. Meditation was an important part of some Japanese spiritual practices. I've tried it a few times. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, focusing on my breathing. It's difficult. My thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. I find myself thinking about the shipwreck, the churning waves, the screams. I see the splintered wood, the broken masts, the faces of my crew swallowed by the sea. Then I think of the village, the faces of my new friends, the warmth of their smiles. It's a strange juxtaposition, the horror of the past and the peace of the present, existing side by side in the confines of my mind. I open my eyes, the river flowing on, indifferent to my inner turmoil, a constant reminder of time's relentless passage. The water flows ever onward, never looking back, just as I must learn to do. I look towards the village, nestled amongst the trees, my home now. The smoke from the cooking fires rises into the air, a comforting signal of belonging, of community, of life. The smell of cooking rice mingles with the scent of wood smoke, creating a familiar and welcoming aroma. Those cooking fires, by the way, were surprisingly smoky. Imagine trying to cook rice without setting off the smoke alarm. You probably won't survive this. Choking on the smoke, flames leaping out of control, it's a wonder anyone ever manages to cook a meal. And yet, they do. Every day. A testament to human resilience, I suppose. Or perhaps just a testament to their hunger. I stand up, brushing the dust from my clothes. I am no longer a stranger, a shipwreck survivor, adrift in a foreign land. I am a part of this village, woven into its fabric. I am learning their language, their customs, their ways. I am learning to fish in the river, to cultivate the rice paddies, to build houses from bamboo and thatch. I am learning to live again. I am learning to be whole. The villagers have welcomed me with open arms, sharing their food, their shelter, their lives. They have shown me kindness and compassion, helping me to heal the wounds, both physical and emotional, that the shipwreck inflicted. They have taught me the importance of community, of belonging, of finding peace in the present moment. They have helped me to understand that even in the face of loss, there is still hope, still beauty, still life. I walk towards the village, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air is filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, the clanging of pots and pans, the gentle murmur of the river. It is a symphony of life, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. I am home, I am whole, I am at peace. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a question lingers, a question about the art on the walls of the village elder's home, the swirling lines and intricate patterns, the echoes of a philosophy I don't fully understand. Historians still debate the influence of Zen Buddhism on samurai period art and philosophy. Perhaps, one day, I will understand. Perhaps, one day, I will learn the deeper meanings hidden within the brushstrokes, the whispers of a culture so different from my own. But for now, it is enough to simply be. To exist in this moment, surrounded by the warmth of community, the beauty of nature, and the quiet hum of life. The familiar scent of ink and old wood drew me back to the temple. It was a comforting aroma, a blend of history and creativity, and it tugged at something deep within me. He sat in the same corner, bathed in the soft light filtering through the paper windows. The poet. His brush danced across a scroll, leaving a trail of inky characters in its wake. He looked up as I approached, his smile a warm welcome, a silent invitation to join him in his quiet world. Those scrolls, by the way, were surprisingly good at recording history. Way better than my attempts at keeping a diary. Just kidding, or am I? Let's just say my handwriting looks more like a spider crawled across the page after a particularly messy meal. He gestured towards the scroll, the ink still glistening wetly, forming elegant characters that flowed like a gentle stream. It was a poem, he explained, about journeys, about second chances, about the resilience of the human spirit, embodied by the chrysanthemum that blooms even in the face of adversity. He recited it softly, his voice a melodic counterpoint to the rustling leaves outside. Reading ancient Japanese poetry, by the way, requires the patience of a saint and a dictionary the size of a small dog. You probably won't survive this. Just imagine trying to decipher Shakespeare after a few centuries and a language barrier the size of Mount Fuji. Good luck with that. Poets of this era, he told me, often drew inspiration from their dreams. They believed the subconscious held a wellspring of creativity, a hidden world of images and emotions that could be woven into verse. They would wake in the dead of night, he explained, with a line or a stanza echoing in their minds, a fragment of a dream transformed into art. They would scramble for their brushes and ink, eager to capture the fleeting whispers of the sleeping world before they vanished with the dawn. It was a fascinating glimpse into their creative process, a reminder that inspiration can be found in the most unexpected places. Poetry, he emphasized, stroking the delicate brush across the inkstone, was a highly valued art form. It wasn't just a pastime or a form of entertainment. It was a powerful tool for communication, for expressing complex emotions, for capturing the essence of the human experience. Courtiers studied it diligently, honing their skills in crafting elegant verses. Samurai warriors, despite their reputation for martial prowess, often cultivated a deep appreciation for poetry, seeing it as a way to refine their spirits and express the code of Bushido. It was woven into the very fabric of their society, a testament to its enduring power. He pointed to a specific line in the poem, then to me, then to the world beyond the temple walls, a gesture that spoke volumes. A connection. A legacy. A story continued. It was a powerful moment, a silent understanding that transcended words. He saw something in me, something reflected in the verses he had written, something that resonated with the spirit of the poem. It was a humbling experience, to be seen in that way, to be recognized as a part of something larger than myself. He believed, I realized, that the journey depicted in his poem was not just about a mythical hero or a historical figure. It was about all of us, about the ongoing struggle to find our place in the world, to overcome adversity, to leave our mark on the tapestry of time. The influence of Chinese poetry on Japanese literary traditions during this period, he explained, is still a subject of much debate among historians. Some argue that the Japanese simply imitated Chinese forms and styles, while others maintain that they adapted and transformed these influences, creating something uniquely their own. It's a complex and fascinating topic, one that scholars continue to grapple with even today. Think of it like this. Imagine two musicians from different cultures sharing melodies and rhythms. Do they simply copy each other, or do they blend these influences with their own unique musical heritage to create something new and vibrant? That's the essence of the debate surrounding Chinese and Japanese poetry during the samurai period. He smiled again, a warm, knowing smile, and returned to his scroll, his brush continuing its graceful dance across the page. The poem, I understood, was not just about the past. It was about the future, about the potential that lay within each of us to shape our own destinies. It was a call to action, an invitation to embrace the journey, to face the challenges with courage and resilience, to write our own verses in the ongoing saga of human existence. And as I left the temple, the scent of ink and old wood lingering in the air, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper understanding of my place in the world, a quiet determination to continue the story he had so eloquently begun. The scratching of the brush against paper, the rhythmic chanting of the monks, The distant laughter of children, the gentle whisper of the wind through the chrysanthemum field, the sounds of my new life, a harmonious blend of past and present. Those chrysanthemum fields, by the way, are surprisingly good at attracting butterflies and also tourists with cameras. I probably won't survive this. I close my eyes, the world fading into a soft tapestry of sound and sensation. The shipwreck, a distant memory now, a whisper of loss in the vast ocean of time. I am no longer adrift, clinging to wreckage. I am anchored, rooted, reborn. Staying asleep during a history video, by the way, is perfectly acceptable, unless you're operating heavy machinery. Just kidding, or am I? I open my eyes, the poet's face a gentle mask of peace. He smiles, then slowly rolls up the scroll, the poem a final verse in the story of my journey. He gestures towards the window, the chrysanthemum field, a vibrant tapestry of color beneath the setting sun. A farewell, a new beginning. Those sunsets, by the way, were surprisingly beautiful, unlike my attempts at painting them. Just kidding, or am I? I stand, my heart filled with a quiet gratitude. I look at the poet, the temple, the village, the field of chrysanthemums. The pieces of my shattered life, now woven into a new and vibrant whole. I am home. And as I drift off now, I imagine myself walking through a field of wild chrysanthemums, the petals brushing against my skin like a gentle whisper. The scent of earth and flowers fills the air, a calming balm for my weary soul. The sun sets behind the distant mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. A gentle breeze whispers through the trees, carrying with it the soft chanting of monks from a nearby temple. I am safe, I am home, I am at peace. Good night.